I was disappointed with both candidates. I'm not wildly enthusiastic about Trump's winning. I think it's going to be the same problematic administration. It's certainly a huge comeback. I was disappointed with both candidates. I didn't vote for either one of them, so I'm not wildly enthusiastic about Trump's winning, but it was a clear victory, and it was accompanied by Republican gaining control of the Senate and likely keeping control of the House. So it will be a strong start, I think, for a Trump administration. In international terms, I think it's going to be the same problematic administration it was for much of the first term, beginning with the threat that Trump has made during the campaign to raise tariffs on all imports into the United States from wherever they may come in the world to 10%, 20%, who knows what the last number will be, which is a prospect that could significantly impact the American economy in a very negative way, and really the rest of the world's too.
Ambassador, do you think this is the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States, as it is being said, and how historic is Trump's win, since he will be the only second to former U.S. President Cleveland who did two non-consecutive terms in the White House?
Well, it's certainly a huge comeback. I don't think anybody can deny that, whether it's bigger than Richard Nixon's comeback when he was defeated in 1960, lost as the candidate for governor of California in 1962, and then came back in 1968 to win the nomination, or whether it's bigger than Grover Cleveland at the end of the 19th century. Who really knows? But it's a significant comeback. I think on that point, there's no denying it.
So, what impact would his another term have on India-US relationship? You were his NSA when Trump was in power. You have seen the Howdy Modi event, Namaste Trump event, and Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump, they have also spoken with each other after Trump uh, clinched to the second term. So, how do you see India-US relationship?
Well, I think the relationship between the countries is strong and growing, and I think that's a very good thing. I think the Asian Security Quad is a very important vehicle for key countries with interest in the region: Japan, India, Australia, the U.S. And I'd like to see in a second Trump term that Quad arrangement grow. In his first term, unfortunately, we could only ever get Trump to talk about tariff issues and trade issues, and which dominated the bilateral uh, conversations between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump. And in the one Quad meeting that took place when I was there, dominated that too. But this is a very important bilateral relationship. Trump does, I believe, have a good personal relationship with the Prime Minister. In Trump's view, a good personal relationship between the two leaders means that the two countries have good relations. Unfortunately, the world is more complicated than that, but I think it should be a high priority of American diplomacy to work through the different problems that exist in the bilateral relationship. The question of India's historic relationship with the Russian military and sophisticated weapons, because of the common threat posed by China. And it will take time, as in any complex relationship, to resolve the issues, but I think it should be a high priority.
So Trump has been mentioning about how ridiculously Biden administration has dealt with the two ongoing wars, the Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, Gaza. In his victory speech, also he indicated one of the major policy decisions he will make will likely about working to end wars around the world. Since you have been his NSA, how do you read Trump's mind dealing with these conflicts once he takes the office?
Well, he doesn't really know how he's going to resolve them. I think what he really wants to do is simply get them off the table. He views them as Biden's wars. He has also said in his campaign rallies, if he had been president, the wars never would have taken place. Of course, that kind of statement is neither provable nor disprovable. But he just wants the Ukraine war to be over. He doesn't really care what the end result is. I think that's very troubling from the Ukraine perspective. And I understand that there was a conversation a few hours ago between Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump. I suspect Trump said something to him like, do what you need to do on Iran. and its nuclear weapons program, but get this thing resolved by January the 20th, which I don't think can happen, but I suspect that's what they said. And I would just, if I could, make one point about the fact that Netanyahu was the first foreign leader apparently to speak with Trump since the election. Little free advice can't be a bad thing to get on the phone. If it's too late in India tonight, the prime minister could do it tomorrow. But I know he's issued a statement, but a call. They know each other. They've spoken many times, met together. I think a call would be a good thing.
Yeah, so the Indian Prime Minister and President-elect Donald Trump, they also had an teleconversation recently.
Really, after the election?
Yes,
Okay, I had not heard that. Well, that's good news. Good for the prime minister.
right. So you mentioned about Iran. What about Trump's Iran policy? You know, Trump pulled out from the Iran deal, jeopardizing overall trade ties with the Persian Gulf country. Would there be any change when it comes to his policy towards Iran?
Well, I expect it will be the same, at least in the short term, because again, he views the Iran nuclear deal as the 2015 deal as something that the Obama administration came up with, and that was the principal reason he wanted to get out of it. I think there were a lot of important strategic reasons to get out of it, but we got out of it, and I think he sees Biden's efforts to go back into the deal as badly flawed, which they are, and I think he'll reject it. So but I also don't put it beyond Trump if at some point the Iranians reached out to try and have a negotiation. He came very close in 2019 to meeting with then Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif. And if the Iranians were clever enough, if that regime was clever enough, which I don't think it is, they too would reach out and say, we should have the supreme leader meet with President Trump in Geneva or Vienna or someplace like that.
Right. So Trump has been talking hard on immigration. What do you think will be the steps taken by the Trump administration in terms of his immigration policy and on border control?
Well, he has said repeatedly in this campaign that he would try and cut off the flow of illegal immigrants across the border and have mass deportation programs for illegal immigrants who are already in the country. Now, he came close to saying that in the 2016 election, but at the beginning of his administration in 2017, they stumbled very badly on some early executive orders and other efforts to close the border. I don't think they'll make those same mistakes again. They may make other mistakes, but I think the odds point to them being better prepared this time so that promptly after Trump is sworn in on January the 20th, they can put some of these immigration decisions into play immediately.
So vis-a-vis China and Indo-Pacific, what is your assessment of Trump's policy? You know, China exercised caution in its statement, and it's asserted that Beijing will continue to oversee ties with the U.S. in accordance with the principles of mutual interest in respect. So, how do you see Trump's policy towards China?
Well, during the campaign, he took a very tough rhetorical line against China, which I attribute to the fact that he believes that it was the COVID pandemic and the economic consequences of COVID that led to his defeat in 2020. And COVID obviously originated in China, so he blames China for it fairly or unfairly. Of course, he lost the election for a number of reasons. He won't really admit that. He says it's stolen, but he believes his political troubles in 2020 stemmed in large part from COVID. So negative on China. But again, up to the point when I think if Xi Jinping were to call Trump as part of the campaign of foreign leaders to call him on day one or day two after the election to congratulate him and say, "Look, Donald, I'm so glad you're back in office. Let's get together. Let's restart our negotiations and let's get the biggest trade deal in history." I think Trump would go along with it. I think Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin know how to play Trump, and I think that's what they're considering how to do in their respective capitals.
So coming to South Asian neighborhood, do you think there would be a change in policy when it comes to Bangladesh? We saw the tweet by Donald Trump just few days before elections where he condemned the minorities attack in Bangladesh. So how do you see that?
Well, it was interesting that that tweet took place. He's not shown enormous interest in Bangladesh before. I can't attribute that to any particular person. Maybe somebody suggested that he do it. Whether he really is interested in the issue and plans to do anything, I think remains to be seen. I do not personally believe it's high on his list of priorities.
Right. So you recently wrote in a new foreword to the room where it happened that Trump is unfit to be president. And since you were his advisor, you said if his first 4 years were bad, the second four will be worse. What are your comments now, sir? Since he has been in the White House.
Well, buckle up. I think it's going to be chaotic like it was in the first term. You know, Trump doesn't have a philosophy. He doesn't do policy in the sense we normally understand that. His decisions are very transactional, and he has trouble distinguishing between his own interest and the national interest. I think that was evident in the first term. I think it would be even more evident in a second term.
So just last question, what now for Democrats? Kamala Harris, she hasn't conceded yet, and she was supposed to address her supporters, but she hasn't done it yet. She hasn't congratulated Trump as well. So what now for her?
Well, I'm told that in about 4 hours here in Washington, she will make that address. That's what the news is reporting currently. I think she's taking time to consider what to say in it, and I hope she does concede. She's lost. There's no doubt about it. And I think, honestly, although I know this will be hard for her to do, but a gracious statement that she looks forward and the whole Democratic Party looks forward to working with Trump and the Republicans in the Senate and the House for the better interest of the United States would be a very gracious thing to do. She was called a lot of names during the campaign, and part of the general decline in civility in our politics. I don't think she'll respond in kind in this speech. She didn't before, but being gracious and leaving the path open for conversations with Trump or whatever, I think would be a good sign for the American body politic, and I hope she does it.